So Pope Francis was a Jesuit, and Pope Leo was an Augustinian before he became Pope. And I think there's a good odds that we're gonna have a little bit of popes who were previously religious, and this brings us to thinking about the religious orders. And today we're going to talk about the oldest religious community. So if that sounds interesting to you, strap in. Hello, welcome to Intermarifica, New Mexico, the channel where we look at questions of wonder, things of wonder from the perspectives of faith and reason, philosophy and theology. I'm your host, Daniel Kelly, and today we're looking at what I think is one of the greatest wonders, is vocation. And when we're looking for a vocation, discerning our vocation, a lot of times we're looking at different religious orders, different things that God may be calling us to do. And I think right now, religious life, sometimes to younger Catholics, has this kind of new spark, new allure, because there's all kinds of little communities that have popped up, and also our two recent popes have been religious, so that's really cool. And but there is the most ancient religious community, which has been having kind of a crisis of vocations, and that's what I want to talk about. If you're discerning, I want you to consider discerning to this oldest one. But even if you're not, if you're already in your vocation, you're religious, you're married, whatever, I think these reflections will help us to pray for this religious community, this ancient religious community, so that it doesn't have this crisis of vocations. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to start with reading from Monsignor Ronald Knox. He was an English priest that translated the Bible, very, very intelligent man. I want to read his reflections. We're going to go through them with some commentary. We Catholics have a touching habit of making the profession of a nun into a sort of parody of a wedding service. The preacher is expected to address the novice as if she were a bride just waiting for the nuptial blessing. One of these days, I would like to reverse that process and preach a wedding sermon in which I should address the bride and groom as two souls who are about to take their solemn vows in some enclosed order of religious, a little enclosed order of two, with an object of its own and a spirit of its own, the oldest of all religious orders, because it was founded by Adam and Eve. And that's the community I want to talk about, is marriage. It is the oldest religious community because like all religious communities, directed towards God, that's founded by God, and also kind of like how the Franciscans, there's a bunch of different kinds of Franciscans. Well, each marriage, although there's plenty of stuff in common, is its own community with its own spirit, like he's talking about. So all the Franciscans have the spirit of Saint Francis, and they have that special grace of being after him. Well, each marriage has that community of life and that spirit too, that's unique to them. And this is the oldest. It was founded by Adam and Eve, the first people. So I think that's really important. Sometimes we think of marriage as just kind of the boring default. If you're just, most people have it, so this is just what human beings do. But no, each marriage is its own religious community, unique from all others. And I think that's really important. The Monsignor goes on. Tell me, when you meet an enclosed nun, do you expect to find her grumbling all the time about the loss of liberty which she experiences, about the strictness of her rule, the unreasonableness of her superiors, the uncongenial ways of her sisters? Surely, if you did find such a religious, you would say she was a very bad religious indeed. And I think that this is good reflection for us as married people. All this complaining, we wouldn't expect, hopefully, to find it in a young nun or sister. But a lot of times we fall into it ourselves. Let's not do that. The Second Vatican Council talked about how each of the vocations, the religious vocation and the married vocation, strengthen each other. And I think this exercise that Monsignor Knox is doing helps to, one of the ways that helps to do that, where we look at, because it kind of brings us out of ourselves, brings us out of our immediate vocation, to look at it more objectively. Surely if you did find such a religious, you would say she was very bad religious indeed. And why? Because although she was conforming externally to all the rules of her order, she had no love for her order, no sympathy for its spirit, no generosity in the discharge of her duties. And yet is not that very much the position of the married woman who finds her husband an infliction, her wifely duties a nuisance, her marriage vows a contract of slavery? And this is the same for guys. He's just using the woman right now as an example, who makes little secret of the fact when she is talking to her intimate friends, and who yet prides herself on her loyalty to the Catholic profession, in not seeking ground for a divorce. It is we ourselves who make a slavery of marriage. Christ calls us to it, not as to a slavery, but as to a loving service undertaken for him. Remember, this is a job we get from Christ, and a job might be a bad way of saying, because a lot of people don't like their jobs, but this is God calls us to do this wonderful thing for him. It's amazing. What are the dispositions that make for a happy marriage? Physical health and beauty in man and woman? No. Health may fail and beauty may be marred. Common interests and tastes? No. Tastes and interests may change as the years go on. A violent passion of love, the feeling that neither can live without the other, that each has found a soul's mate. Even that, though it is a gracious and fortunate thing, right? That is a grace, that is a good thing, and you should be happy if you got that, but is not enough. Love is blind, they say, but it is a dangerous thing when the blind leads the blind to the altar. No, the disposition that makes for a happy marriage is the conviction that in man and woman that God has called them to do something for him, to build up a Christian home, and if he sees fit, a Christian family, by a common act of self-oblation, right? That common sacrifice of everything that you are. That's what marriage is. That's what religious life is. That's what vocation is. Not to the other party, but to himself, to God himself. That's who you're giving yourself to in a marriage, just like in religious life. That a Christian community is being founded with the primary intention of all Christian communities, the sanctification of its members, right? Marriage is set up by God to make us holy, not just us. The husband, the wife, the children, the whole home is supposed to be this holy beacon of God's light, just like a religious community. If you've ever been in a community where there's a convent or a monastery, it changes the whole community. Even if the monks or nuns are enclosed and don't leave, it changes that whole community. It's good for them, the whole community. That's how our married community, this community of life we create, this home we create, is a beacon. For every marriage, this next part is very important too, that sometimes we forget. For every marriage, every single one, God has his own purpose, just as he had for the betrothal of Our Lady and Saint Joseph. They had a specific mission in God's plan of salvation. So do our marriages. It is, before all else, to the fulfillment of that purpose that the bride and bridegroom devote themselves. And if, as all too often happens, one partner fails to understand this duty and plays the divine vocation false, that does not release the other partner from a duty that is owed to God. The wife or husband who really loves Jesus Christ will find, in the circumstances of an unhappy marriage, for only fresh opportunities for proving and for strengthening that love. God knows it is hard sometimes. God knows there are tragedies of fidelity in unhappy marriages, which can rival the most severe mortification of the most strict religious, and are valued, I think, no less in eternity. And I think that's really, really powerful, that our marry the way God set it up. And obviously, so in the natural order, marriage is a higher good than virginity. In the supernatural order, the virginity of religious and priests and all that stuff of devoting themselves to God is higher supernaturally than married life. But the way we give of ourselves is valued no less in eternity, is the same, whether happy marriage, unhappy marriage. And I think when we view it in this way, our marriages will be more happy. So that was just a really cool reflection from Monsignor Ronald Knox, and I really like his image of let's think about marriage as a religious community and see how that helps us. And I think it is really helpful. So I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Hit the bell to get notifications. And you have a very, very wonderful day. God bless you.